everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on Black News Tonight. I'm Shannon Lanier in for Marc Lamont Hill. We have breaking news tonight. Empire actor Jussie Smollett has been sentenced for staging a homophobic and racist 2019 attack. Smollett will spend 150 days in Cook County Jail, serve 30 months felony probation, pay $120,000 in restitution to the city of Chicago, and a $25,000 fine. The judge spent over an hour leading up to the sentencing explaining to Smollett just how serious his situation was and how it impacted not only the city of Chicago, but the people around him. Smollett's brother spoke about the judge's address.
He shamed my brother. He spoke about his arrogance. He doesn't know the struggles my brother is encountering. He doesn't know anything that he's dealing with. He doesn't know anything that he's dealing with. He spent all that time shaming him. In 2022, we don't shame people like this.
2019, Smollett alleged that he had been attacked, claiming his attackers used racist and homophobic slurs. After an investigation, Chicago police determined the actor had lied. Back in December, Smollett was convicted on 5 of 6 counts of disorderly conduct. So joining me now to talk more about Smollett's sentencing is attorney, activist, and political strategist Angelo Pinto. Welcome back to Black News Tonight.
Thank you for having me.
No, of course, because we got to get to the bottom of this. I first have to ask you, what do you think about Smollett's sentencing?
I think the sentencing was excessive. The judge went on and he talked about that, he would have felony probation, right, for 30 months, which I thought was quite a bit. Jussie now has a felony on his record. The fine of $25,000 along with $125,000 in restitution, I thought was sufficient. So in order for him to get jail time and to have to begin serving his jail sentence immediately, I didn't expect it. I don't think Jussie expected it, and I don't think the crime fit the punishment.
Well, we didn't hear from him on the stand today, but we did hear from him at the end of his sentencing. So let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
No, I would just like to say to Your Honor that I am not suicidal. That's what I would like to say.
Okay.
I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time, I am not suicidal.
Okay. Mr. Uche.
That's what he had to say. So did Smollett not taking the stand today affect his outcome? And what about that little blurb that we just heard there? Do you think it could have at all damaged his jail time?
I don't think him not taking the stand impacted the judge's sentence. I mean, the judge spoke at length. I can't remember listening to a statement pre-sentencing that was as long and as, I guess, thought out and intentional. So I don't know if there's anything that Jussie could have said that would have changed the way the judge thought he was going to move around sentencing. I think, Jussie's statement or outburst after sentencing really showed that he was outraged. I think it showed that he was also surprised by receiving jail time. And I think it also spoke to the fact that maybe he is very scared of going to jail, because he mentioned several times that he wasn't suicidal. Even as he walked out of the courtroom, he mentioned it again. And he reaffirmed his innocence and that he did not do this crime. So I think he's fearful. I think he's outraged, and I think he's surprised. But I think a lot of folks are not, because after all, he is Black. He is, a celebrity. And I think the judge knew that he had to make a statement and couldn't let him off leniently, as some may appear, if he didn't give him jail time at all.
Well, he made a statement, and some say he also made an example out of him. And we also know that the judge turned down the request to have Smollett's conviction thrown out altogether, saying that he actually believed that the actor had a fair trial to begin with. So do you think that Smollett did, in fact, have a fair trial?
I don't know if I would say his trial was fair. Before this trial, Jussie had agreed to a plea deal where, he was going to have a fine and supposedly things would be sealed. and it appears that they reneged on it and that they pursued another investigation. So in many ways, it appears to me that the special prosecutor and the individuals who are looking into this case really wanted to show that Jussie Smollett did something wrong. And in many ways, it seems like they were after him. For me, they often talked about the amount of money they spent on this investigation. The city of Chicago had to spend excessive amounts of money to actually pursue this investigation. And my question is why? I don't know if that was necessary. If at some point Jussie was going to take a plea deal and he was going to accept the fine, that could have been the end of it. But for me, in my perspective, the city of Chicago wanted to make an example of Jussie, and they did. I mean, I think some of it is because of his race, and I think some of it is because of his celebrity, and some of it may have to do with the way in which it targeted Donald Trump and his supporters. But, you know, whatever folks end up feeling, I feel like he was certainly targeted, and the sentencing overall was a bit excessive.
So now that he has to serve 150 days in jail, do you believe, or is it possible that he can get out early for good behavior, or they can appeal and try to lessen that amount of time?
I mean, they're certainly going to appeal. And I think potentially given, you know, the earlier findings around them attempting to strike a plea deal and a fine, they may grant that early release. But I think the judge making Jussie begin his sentence immediately was also a smack in the face to say that you are going to receive some kind of punitive impact, some kind of punitive retribution for what you did. And I think the judge wanted to be very mindful not to let folks think that he was going to let Jussie off lenient or treat him, unfairly, favorably because of his celebrity. But I think it was ultimately excessive, and I think Jussie was very surprised.
Well, speaking of celebrity, I know several people, including actor Samuel L. Jackson and his wife, they actually wrote a letter to the judge asking that the actor not be sent to prison. So I guess that didn't have an impact on the judge's decision. Or maybe it would have been worse if they didn't write those letters.
You know, it's hard to tell. The judge, in his closing statement before he gave the sentence, spoke about Samuel Jackson. He spoke about Jussie Jackson and other prominent individuals who wrote letters on behalf of Jussie. And I think in some ways it may have fueled the fire of the judge, knowing that he had to make a statement and wasn't too swayed by these letters. And I think he spoke to that and the seriousness of what he, called Jussie lying about a hate crime. So it's hard to say whether or not those letters helped Jussie at all. I think in the final analysis, with him having to serve jail time and the excessive fine, one would say that none of the letters that were submitted on his behalf helped.
And so since he's got to go to jail for 150 days, how long would an appeal take? Could it possibly take longer than those 150 days? Because he's already going to start serving jail time right now. No,
I think his attorneys, if they, are smart, which I believe they are, they seem to present a thorough case, and their closing statements were thorough and certainly advocating for Jussie. So I'm sure that they have their appeal ready to go, and they're going to submit it as soon as possible with the hopes of things, turning the tide and Jussie being able to be released early.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on this and see how long he ends up staying in jail. Angelo Pinto, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective.